Tapping in.
Are we live?
Mr. Miles Xavier.
Yo.
Over the week, one of our favorite comedians, and let me say my favorite comedian because I don't know who your favorite comedian, but one of my favorite comedians got caught up in a scandalous source.
My favorite comedian is Bernie Mac, although I do love how fluffy it looks in this picture. It's incredible.
Yeah, that jacket does not look that's not fair, dude. I don't know what he's holding in those pockets, but that's not fair. That's not how big my guy is.
Oh man, comedic genius. Or either way, nah, man. That's a funny picture, but my man looks good, yo.
But
go ahead.
Just to get deep into this conversation, I don't know if you saw the video, but particularly speaking, Dave Chappelle was speaking at a community hall meeting regarding the development of what was incorrectly labeled as low-income household, and the video went viral. Dave Chappelle, we've covered it numerous times on this particular show, one of our favorite artists, low-income households. The title is juicy and scandalous. You know, it looks like there's an agenda behind the title. What did you take from it?
I'll keep it real and say when I first saw it, I was scandalized, right? When I first saw it, because here's the thing, right? I think Dave Chappelle, as the guy who turned down $50 million, at one point had this cachet with the public, the general public, and even the black public, which is it's hard to get cachet with the black public. But Dave Chappelle had cachet even with the black public to say, like, no matter what happens, no matter what headline I read, I believe that Dave Chappelle is on the side of the people, right? Dave Chappelle had the benefit of the doubt of the people for a little while. And I think that's come into question, right? Just the general question of whether Dave Chappelle is on the side of the little guy or is on Dave Chappelle on the side of, you know, he's reached a certain point where, for lack of a better term, there's a Kanye-ish tint to the things where it's like, hey, look, I'm here. I'm this guy. I say this. This is what shakes, right? I think that's just come into question. Do you agree or disagree? Whether it's not either side.
You seeing a bit of Kanye and Dave Chappelle? Is that what you're saying, Miles Xavier?
I'm just reaching for a way to describe how this person, I think at one point, everybody was like, he's with us. He represents the people and the feelings, especially the hurt feelings that we feel that don't get to be voiced. And comedy is an incredible vessel for that. And he's been an incredible vessel for an entire community's voice, right? And then there's a shift to where that community may or just questions whether that person represents them, right?
So why it would seem like an infringement on the people, so to speak, is because it was labeled as low-income housing, which would imply that Dave Chappelle is not for low-income housing in his community, especially in the nature when you've seen this particular clip in hand where he's like, I'm offended. Y'all look like fools, you know, talking this talk. And quite frankly, I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at somebody being able to talk their talk, because I feel like sometimes the only way to get people to listen to is if you speak surprisingly direct towards them, you know, being completely real without the facade of the suits, without the facade of anything else. And I couldn't imagine this was the first time they had this conversation, especially because he calls out the city council by name who's sitting on that board. You know, he goes, "You got my number, let's talk." Like, why are we at this point? You know, so it does seem like there was a bit of a frustration in there. It's also it could be just it could be the development people playing games, man. That's a part of the game when it comes to these development companies. There's media and marketing that goes behind it. There's false labeling that goes behind it. There's a whole bunch of trickery.
Big facts. So I appreciate you bringing in some of the complexity to the situation, right? It's certainly not as simple as big millionaire Dave Chappelle says no to po people moving into his community. It's honestly like when you look at Yellow Springs, when you like kind of do a little research into the community, you realize that it is like super small town, and it's to the extent that it's very much trying to preserve a very small town feel, right? It's got a little neighborhood newspaper, right? It's And so even any type of development, even something like a low income housing, or like, which, whether this was that, what was being proposed is that, is also in question, right? But any type of development is looked at with scrutiny and how it's going to affect kind of the vibe of the neighborhood, because you have people that have lived there for a long time. The average age of the town is 49, right? uh that are invested in the vibe of the community. Now that can be good and bad, and we can talk about the need for change and development, but at the same time, man, it's simply not as simple as them just saying we don't want no poor people here. um
Yeah, it's deeper than that. And part of the big fear that comes with the housing market, especially right now, is the fact that prices are soaring through the roof. Prices of houses are going through the roof, and a lot of times it's a real odd type of gentrification now that's happening. Not so much where the community is changing, but just the prices are driving people out of that community. You've seen it. What they've called the Zoom generation. So once COVID hit and a lot of people were then able to stay at home and be able to work remotely from home, they realized, oh man, I hate being in this cooped up place in New York. Could probably take this cash and go somewhere nice and quiet and just work from there. And now there's a big flood into these sleepy town markets, if you will, and people are just moving in there at a pace and then increasing the value of it. Increasing the value so that the inhabitants of that place won't be able to afford it anymore. So that also comes into play when you think about these large development plans that could come into that Dave Chappelle could be talking against.
right. And I'm glad that, yeah, this seems like a good time for us to kind of get into, like, what does low income housing mean, right? And like, you're kind of you're getting into gentrification, right? And why that's an issue. These are like buzzwords that I feel like people hear a lot. Um, so we can break some of them down real quick. Like, low income housing is essentially, uh, you look at the median average of how much people make in a given area, right? So take a community, what's the average income for the households, right? You set that at, okay, that's the average. Whoever makes 80% or less than that, that's low income, right? Affordable housing, the thought is, the number that is used by the government in a lot of their kind of scaffolding for the programs is, if housing costs 30% or less of your income, then it's affordable, right? So you take a look at, all right, who's low income? They make 80% of average, right? And then you take, if their housing costs more than a third of their income, right? Then it's not affordable. So let me give you some numbers, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say break that down a little more simple. I'm trying to focus. You say 80%,
Check
30%,
this out.
fifty
Check this out.
percent of 20%.
Check this out, right? If I make $50,000, right?
I like that
Or wait, no,
simple numbers.
my bad. If the
Use numbers I can count on one hand.
I got you. All right, we go. Get ready with your five. Get your five hand out.
I got my five up.
Y'all too, Blues Clues. All right. So if the average income in a community is $50,000, right? Then if I make 80% of that, which is $40,000 or less, I'm considered low income. If I make 80% or less than average, so if the
Okay.
average is 50 and I make 40 or less, I'm considered low income. Now, affordable housing is considered if it's 30% or less of my income. So for if I make $40,000, that means I should be able to find housing for $12,000 a year, 30% of my income. I should be able to find housing for $12,000 a year or less, right? So if you break down 12,000 for a year, 12,000, 12 months, that's $1,000 a month, right? So if
Mhm.
the average income in my community is $50,000, I should be able to find, and the low income is set at $40,000 or less. I should be able to find a house for, or a dwelling rent for $1,000 a month or less, right? Or less, because that's $40,000 is that 80%. So people make less than 80% of average, but that's the simple
Yeah.
numbers.
And so even the term affordable housing becomes more complicated because there's a range in terms of what people can afford. You can be on the upper edge of that 80% and right on that $1,000 housing per month, or you can be way less than that and then, really be outpriced, which is actually something that's happening a lot in London. It's something that's happening a lot in San Francisco. It's something that's happening a lot in New York as well, where people are being outpriced by the homes in their neighborhoods.
It's happening here in Chicago for sure. I live in South Show, right, which is on the south side. It's kind of like the northeast part if you consider how deep the south side goes. It's the northeast part of the south side, right? And that's very close to where the Obamas are building their library. The Obama Library is going up in Jackson Park, essentially, which is situated near Hyde Park, near the University of Chicago, near South Shore, but actually directly to the west of kind of South Shore and the university's kind of southernmost touches is Inglewood, right? So this is a very mixed community. And the introduction of the Obama Library that's going to be here on the south side amidst these communities, people are worried that coming here means the university is going to expand and take up land. The Obama Foundation will continue to expand and take up land. And having something, an attraction that big, will mean that rents will go up and that people who've lived on the South Side, right, where Obama's from, right, uh, will no longer be able to afford to live there.
But what it's kind of double edged, because also what you want as a homeowner in that space, especially for preaching things like buy your neighborhood and buy your block, then that would be a blessing to you. You would be like, oh, thank you, God. This is incredible. This is clearly, won't he do it? It could be that type of situation. But then you're right. Some people in that same area might not be able to afford living in that area. So where do we put the weight of the positive? Is that a positive thing or a negative thing?
Well, there's a lot of things to consider, right? And whether it's a positive or negative thing, I think depends on your perspective and your prospects as far as investment, right? If you have squirreled away a little cash and you got some to spend on a property, on a business, right, in that area, or if you own a business in that area and financially you're super solvent and you're good and you're going to be there, that's great, right? But there's also people that are struggling to pay their rent now. And so the people that have consistently lived in a lot of these communities, especially on the South Side, right, for years and have made them into the communities they're remembered as, the communities that it makes a difference that Obama's from, right? People think of that because of the demographic of community, because that it's a black community and everything that
Mm.
that means, the soul that means, the adversity that means, right? And so when you think about when you think about taking whatever has attracted people to this community and now pushing out the people who have made it that, right? That's where you run into an issue. So yeah, so sure, like there's a great opportunity for investment, but how are we going to make sure that those people get a piece of the pie too? Those people that you've excluded, right, by not investing in these communities until now, until it's gentrification time. How do you make sure that they get something? That's where things like rent control come in. That's where inclusionary zoning ordinances come in. There's a lot of tools.
Ooh, big words.
Oh, hey. But we can break them all down. We can break them all down, right? Like rent control, simple. You set a cap at how much you can charge for rent in this area, which means that people who have historically lived here and who paid a certain amount of rent, just because you build big and fancy things, they'll still be able to live here. A certain number of the homes in this area will still be designated to be only charge this amount of rent so that people who can only pay that amount of rent can still be a part of this community, even as you
Yeah.
benefit them, right?
I don't know if there's a gentrification tax that exists, but something like that, in terms and going specifically towards like the heart of the issues in that community, which would probably be dilapidated schooling system. And make sure that the kids that were in that community have better access to getting into those schools, increase the pay of those teachers, increase the type of computer labs that they have, that type of thing. In the oil and gas world, they call that local content, right? Where it's like a law stipulated that a percentage of every single barrel has to go towards impacting positively the country that the oil is being pulled from. So a gentrification tax of that sort would be dope.
Yeah, but a big part of the issue is keeping people in those communities long enough to see the prosperity that comes from the change, right? Unfortunately, here in Chicago, the school system is funded by property tax, right? So until they gentrify, move everybody out, put up a whole bunch of high rises and raise the value of the property, right? The schools don't get better. So how do we, like you said, right? How do we make sure that in that process of these developers, whoever they may be coming into the space, the people have a say in making demands of things that won't change, making demands of parts of their community that will not be touched. And that includes residents, and that includes creating affordable housing opportunities for residents, right? And so it's complex, man. I don't want to make it seem like it's easy. I don't want to make it seem like anybody's on the wrong side of this thing, because real estate itself is complex. But at the end of the day, man, you gotta always consider, like, your people. Not everybody's at the table automatically. People with money are at the table automatically. People with influence are at the table automatically, right? And everybody else that doesn't have money and influence often gets swept along. So when you talk about an opportunity in any given space, you got to think about the people that you need to be intentional about bringing to the table. Because if you don't bring them to the table, one, you lost all the soul of the community, and it's only going to get cool somewhere else. And two, you're going to be on the wrong side of history for having moved those people out, only wanting to take up what you thought was valuable in that space.
You heard it here first. Where else can you go to get a breakdown of affordable housing, breakdown of all sorts of inclusionary zoning, information for your content?